The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Koberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It is a dense population of Roseland College-related occupants. It is a dense population of Roseland College-related occupants. It is a dense population of Roseland College-related occupants.
Johnny went down into hell one night, he was hunting for the devil's throne. He beat around his name too long, figured he'd claim his own. The flames were licking the cavern walls, the air was thick with sin. But he grinned and tuned his fiddle tight, said, devil, let's begin. He laughed and said, you're foolish, son, you'll burn before you win. But he rousing up that bow and said, we'll see who melts in sin. I ain't afraid of fire or brimstone, you can damn me if I lose, but I'm the best that's ever lived, old boy, so go on, light that fuse. Let's go! Johnny was a hillbilly redneck, meaner than a dog on meth. He said, I beat every fiddle of breathing, ain't none left on earth worth a test. So he loaded up his moonshine and he swore one drunken yell, if the devil's still picking, I'll find his ass, I'm heading straight to hell. Johnny went down to hell, he wasn't running scared, said, I came to take your fiddle, boy, if you still got one spare. The devil grinned and said, hot damn, I've waited for this day, but I ain't playing country tunes down here, we melt the strings away. The gate swung wide, the brimstone popped, and demons poured like beer. The devil stood there smiling with a gobo slick and clear. Boy, you talk big for a mortal man, but my fire's burned for years. Johnny spit and grinned, I'll smoke your ass and drink your flaming tears. Johnny went down to hell, he wasn't running scared, said, I came to take your fiddle, boy, if you still got one spare. The devil grinned and said, hot damn, I waited for this day, but I ain't playing country tunes down here, we melt the strings away. The devil drew his bow across, the pit began to roar. The walls of hell were shaking like a diesel engine's core. But Johnny's fire was meaner still, and that fiddle screamed pure sin. He bent the notes till angels cried and the devil's flame grew thin. Smoke rolled up from Johnny's strings, ashes on his boots. He said, hell's just another honky-tonk and I'm the king of roots. The devil dropped that golden bow and kicked it through the flame. Johnny took it, tipped his hat, said, now you know my name. Johnny went down to hell, and he played that fire clean. Left the devil staring, dumbstruck in the glow of gasoline. He said, keep your crown and kingdom, I just came to raise some hell. You'll hear my fiddle ringing from the hollers down in hell.
Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me.
And eternal pain.
And here we go.
Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? Happy Monday. Let me make sure the audio's coming in. Oh, it is good to be back. I apologize for last night. Mrs. Birdie caught whatever bug that I had going around. And today is probably the closest to 100% that I feel. Mrs. Birdie's feeling better. And on top of that, it's Monday evening. Devil's Advocates is backstage. So all in all, today is a great Monday. And this is an awesome way to finish the day off. So thank you all for tuning in. If this is your first time, I'm your host, Birdie. I go live weeknights at 7 p.m. Central. And I host what is known as a contrarian thinking live stream. So we think past the headlines, we question the narrative. And if you're somebody that's easily rattled or if you're easily offended on behalf of others, you're not going to like me. You're probably not going to like people in the chat or this stream in general. So if you are somebody, though, who you like to think, what if, or how is this possible? Why are they saying the things that they are? You are amongst friends and you have found your people. Now, this evening, Devil's Advocates and I, we're going to be talking about some super interesting rumors, I guess you would say, things that they seem to be a part of the case, but nobody can really connect the dots on. I got a lot of slides prepped for this evening. I'm not going to take too long saying what's up to everybody because I got DA backstage waiting, as I was saying earlier. But while I'm saying what's up, please hit that like button, hit subscribe. If you want to screenshot this quick and scan this QR code later from your photos, that takes you to all of my socials and all of the links, including the Hive Mind store, my TikTok page, any other social that I do have, which I would appreciate if you would go and follow me on that. I see Lisa, UK Kaylee, THD of Thinkology, Pink Cadillac, Les, Jeremy, Amanda B from West Virginia, RBF Queen, UFO Dog, Gamilla, K-Kaz, Allison, Wonders Deep, Snappy Cat, Christine, Growth Renewal. D Sam says, first time I made it to a live. Love your takes on everything. Glad I finally found someone who not only sees what I do, but calls it out. Amen to that. Amen to that. Thank you so much. Crystal for the super chat saying, I hope Mrs. Birdie feels better soon. Yes. She had some chicken noodle soup last night. Got a ton of sleep. Dago sending in a super chat. That's awesome, brother. Good to see you as always. Says hammer that like button for these awesome creators, y'all. Appreciate that, Dago. And we got Gina, Reality Check, Wonders Deep. I think I already said what's up, but Poetic Justice, great to see you. Jenna Bomb. All right. Now, without further ado, let me get DA's page up here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring Devil's Advocates up. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, you're already starting out making me nervous at the whole, we're going to talk about rumor shit. I'm like, oh shit, we always get in trouble when we talk about rumors, dude.
No. But it is a rumor at this point, right? Like
a lot of this is rumor. Yeah.
A lot of it's rumors, but a lot of these quote rumors, if I had to say, well, where did they come from? I don't necessarily blame people like you or me or people in the chat, because I think they are a lot of unaddressed questions that happened or were present right after this case occurred that have yet to be addressed, which leads people to look under every, stone and think about every possible situation, which leads to, unfortunately, this dangerous online speculation that every official ever always wants to throw in people's faces.
Yeah. And it's not fair because really at the end of the day, detectives do the same thing we do, right? They come up with theories, they test their theories, they ask questions, and they don't get their nuts busted for coming up with the question, hey, what if so-and-so did it? We should look into that kind of thing. Like they can do it, but if we do it like you clickbaiting sons of bitches or are just out there to say anything you can to get likes and clicks, and I'm like, fucking detectives are doing the same thing we're doing. That just, anyways.
It is funny. Yeah, they could say whatever they want. And you and I are over here getting our nuts just speed bag, just.
That's a visual I needed.
Oh, yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that there's a way to think and to ask questions, and it is what it is. I think that most people who have that ability to flex the muscle of their brain in the ways that you and I do, and a lot of people in our chat can, you either get it or you don't. Right? Just because you're asking the question, you're just thinking through it. And if anything, sometimes you think through it to put it to bed. It's, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I won't make any, I don't want to go long-winded on it, but I've got some theories that I would love to put to bed. Some questions that I've had for a long time that I don't even feel comfortable asking, but until I get an answer that proves that I'm wrong, I'm going to keep asking the question. And I'm actually at this point, well, like, for God's sake, please prove to me I'm wrong so I can stop asking this question. So there's some things I'd like to let go, but until I get proof that I'm not right, I'm going to keep asking the question.
Well, and okay, I think that's a good segue into what is this, quote unquote rumor that we might, put to bed tonight, one might ask, right? And I think there's a lot of things that have come up when it comes to the undercover or the plainclothes police officers that were right outside of 1122 where this crime occurred at the Banfield stop. And it seems as if they were circling the King Road residents throughout the night. I think if you followed this case, this shouldn't sound too foreign to you, but I know sometimes we have newer people that are tuning in. And so a little bit of the backstory on it, there was an underage consumption ticket that was written on the Banfield, which is just a couple hundred yards away from where these murders were happening at the exact same time. And people are wondering, how can you not hear screams? Did they know what was going on? Were they strategically over there? Are the cops somehow already aware of this or involved in it? Or were they putting some sort of perimeter around the house as something was happening? There's a million questions you could ask, but one that does come up is, were those cops together the entire night? And did either of those cops have some sort of a relationship with anybody inside that house?
Yeah. Yeah, those are big questions. And, it's kind of funny because I don't want to get ahead of you on where you want to talk about the conversation, but if, like, for example, some of that audio that came out between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning when you hear the screams, these officers allegedly were parked in the White's parking lot, right where that Banfield stop was basically at, which means that they almost had to have heard it, right? Unless of course their windows were rolled up and they were playing loud music and talking and bullshit, and they would have heard it. Now, here's the counter to our own problem, right? Because you and I talked about this privately a little bit. What if they did hear it? And what if the answer was already known? And that's why they've said, look, there's nothing to it. We know exactly what happened. The screams aren't what you think it is. We were there. We heard it just like it. But the problem with that is why not just fucking tell everybody? Why not everybody tell everybody, hey, look, there's been some reports out there that you hear all those things. Here's what it was. Our officers checked into it, but there's like dead silence on acknowledging that even happened at that time. So I don't know, like, is it going to come out that they did hear it and that the answer's always been there and they've always known about it and we're all just a bunch of assholes for talking about it and they're not assholes for not telling us that they knew all the answers all along? I don't know.
I mean, if you look at the screen here, we're talking about where's the measure stick? All right, so we're talking about here's where King Road was.
Yep.
And let's just even say that it was at the Banfield. At the furthest point away, you're 80 meters.
Yeah.
240 feet. Now, if they were parked here, I mean, it's either way, it's an unbelievably short distance.
Bernie, can you move that line over just a hair so it goes straight through the side of the Whites? Because I want to explain to people, like,
straight through like this, like
go from the King, redraw a new line through the King Road house, and then right to the left. There you go, right there. Go right straight forward up to the field. Go straight to the field from there. See that line right there? That literally is a straight shot that you can visibly see the 1122 King Road house from the Banfield. Like it's a walkway. Like that's literally a straight line to the field from 1122 King Road residence. It also means that if a police car, like in the Banfield stop, the police car, I swear, is on that line. It's on Taylor Avenue. The car is right intersecting that yellow line, which means they literally would have been able to look straight up at the 1122 King Road residence from their car. That's what I believe when I look at the Banfield stop, exactly where that silver Hyundai, whatever the hell, Subaru, whatever the hell it is, it looks like a Hyundai Elantra.
Yeah, that's
where the cop car is, parked right there, and it's got a straight line to the 1122 King Road residence house through that walkway. I just find that interesting.
It is interesting. And Gramilla said Brian Enton showed us with a flashlight. And I do remember that report when he was on the ground. Brian Enton was even at, one point or another, showing people that if you go, was it back from up here where they say Molly parked? I mean, there's a pathway that goes through private property.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a tiny area and you can hear a lot of stuff. It's very suspicious that given how many noise complaints as well that house had, right? That on of all nights to not get a noise complaint or to not have people call in about screams or whatever, that's the night while there's cops right there
Right.
outside of their car.
And I would argue one of the, I don't know, I think you've seen my video a little bit, but I think an early report literally said those officers were on a special patrol of some kind to look into underage drinking in the neighborhood. They listed some kind of wording that was a special patrol. And as recently we've been talking on my channel, there is a master service agreement between Moscow Police Department and University of Idaho to provide special patrols to the University of Idaho. And there's officers dedicated to policing just campus and off-campus neighborhoods. And I think that was that patrol that night. I think that was that patrol that night.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. And you have a good video out about that. I think you dropped it this morning or later last night where you go through that.
Morning, yeah.
But, in general, if it wasn't that, let's say that we take the plainclothes police officers at their word. We're looking for open intoxicants. We're looking for underage drinking, right? As far as I remember, and I've watched that a lot, I don't think the 3 kids that ended up getting tickets, I don't think they had alcohol. I think that it was just Saeed that walked over with unopened beers who was over the age of 21.
Right.
I don't see breathalyzers. I understand they might be admitting to this, but my thought was, okay, what would make these cops stop these kids to begin with? Now, hear me out. Call it a tinfoil hat, call it a critical thinking hat. I'm thinking if I was sitting in a cop car with my partner, you and I, we're sitting in the Ford Fusion hybrid, right? So really not any engine sound. What if we hear yelling? And what if we hear stuff while we're sitting in the car and then we see 3 guys, maybe they were just being a bunch of dudes being bros, yelling, talking smack. They're half in the bag. They're walking home after a party. And what if the cops were like, that was really loud. Like they're clearly inebriated. We need to stop them because they don't have drinks. Right?
Yeah. Right. They didn't have drinks. By the way, I think you did you have the Banfield stops queued up somewhere on to play tonight? Because there was a moment on the clip, and I wish I would have spent more time with it. It was kind of cut off. It was like mid-sentence, the clip I saw. Now maybe you got a longer clip, but the clip I saw, and the wording started out with something like it was some frat guy. And I was like, what are they talking about? It was some frat guy. Like the body camera turns on and the guy's in mid-sentence and he's like, yeah, it was some frat guy. And I'm like, who are they talking about? Because again, the mind could run away with you on a lot of questions about Ethan Chapin. People think that Ethan got into a fight outside, maybe was jumped outside the house, whatever. And these guys are talking about, oh yeah, there was something with some frat guy. I don't remember the context of that statement. And it was, what I saw, it was kind of like in the middle of a sentence. So I didn't get the context of the frat guy.
Well, so what I have here is I have JLRs. I put a night vision filter on it. So that's why it looks like this, but this is JLRs. It's unredacted. I could play a little bit of it. There's some audio on it as well. Let me take the comments off the screen. So JLR had put this out a while ago, but you could see kind of right here where they're parked, DA. Already. Right? I mean, you could kind of see the angle of it, of where they would be.
I'm trying to get my bearings. What the hell am I looking at? An overhead shot from the
well, I'm wondering, are they kind of right
that's from
here?
Inside the car, right? Was that from
Yeah.
inside the car? Okay, I see. Yes.
But you could see the apartments.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, they're parked. They're parked, I think, right there, right where your mouse cursor is, right about in there, where the fire hydrant is, and it's again a direct shot to the right. I think it's right in there. Right about there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right about
probably parked right here.
Yeah, or even a little to the right. I think because a little to the right, you got that right there. That alleyway goes up to the 1122 King Road. It feels like that's where it was. And there's a fire hydrant right there too, right? When they walk around the side of their parked car, the police car, unmarked car, you can see the red fire hydrant. Okay, so there's where it had to be. If that's the red fire hydrant, then they were up a little bit further there. Is that the fire
right
hydrant?
here.
Yeah. So they're parked right in front of that fire hydrant.
Yep. So just for a visual for people, but I'll play a little bit of this. There's no audio right away, but then you'll hear it. Oh, so they're backing out. Okay.
So they were parked in the White's parking lot, and then they backed out onto Taylor Avenue, it looks like.
But right now, doesn't it look like these kids are just standing here?
Yeah.
Like they're not even walking. And like, so they back out. And I've always thought this is weird. So they back out, they turn around, they're not moving. They're just standing in a circle. And then they're like, oh, now we go. How do they know that it was the cops? Why would they walk away?
Hey guys, Moscow PD. Come over here, talk to me. Moscow PD. Hey, is that beer?
What's up?
Is that beer in your hand?
Yeah, I'm 21.
You got your ID on you?
I don't.
Okay.
I'll take it back to my apartment if you need.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Huh? No, they just took off. I told them to stop.
Hey, first time ever having this thought. First time ever having this thought. You know how it looked like they were just standing there? That's an unmarked car. I don't know why you'd ever think that was cops to start walking away right away, right?
Yeah.
What if the car pulled out? What if they were actually trying to get away from dude, Saeed, walking down towards them? What if they saw him walking? They're like, dude, we got to get away from this guy.
Yeah. And the other question I had, like maybe people know the answer to this because I don't know who the guys are exactly, but on the body camera footage I saw, he says, "Where do you guys live?" And then they redact out where they live. And I don't know. Did they come from the fraternity? Did they come from Sigma Chi? Were they heading back there, or not? Like I don't know. But
it's just weird because you look at that timing. He would have been coming down right towards him. And why wouldn't he turn around and stop?
This is different video though, because I don't think the video I saw, I think they had his face, Saeed's face redacted out.
JLR got unredacted stuff a while ago.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to push it.
Hey, Moscow,
Yeah, you got your ID on you?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to grab your info just because you got beer and you're walking around with it.
No, it's closed.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I live like right there. I'll take it back if you need.
No, we're just doing alcohol enforcement and running around with beer across the street.
Sorry about that.
You're good. What's your last name?
CHI.
CHI.
KH.
KH.
Space.
Yep.
ALI.
ALI.
Yep.
Okay. First name?
Said, SAID, like said.
AID. Middle initial?
I don't have one.
Okay. Date of birth?
2001. Like,
how'd you pull that one off? That's an awesome birthday.
Yeah, lucky birthday.
You got a driver's license?
I don't have it.
What? No, in general.
I do have one, yeah.
What state is it through?
Idaho.
Idaho. Okay. I'm just going to check if everything's good. Since they're not open, I'll let you hang on to them.
Okay. So will I get charged with anything?
No,
or?
no.
Okay. Appreciate
But
it.
it's just enough for me to stop, check, make sure you're 21,
No worries.
walking
Yeah,
around
I
here
get
in
it.
public.
All right.
Moscow 77, check one. What's that?
Am I going to take off here?
No, let me run this through dispatch. Make sure you're actually 21 and give me a fake birthday or anything. Give me a two-part last. Charles Henry Ida, King Henry, space, Adam Lincoln Ida. First of Saeed, Sam Ida. Correction, Sam Adam Ida, David. No middle. 2001, North Idaho.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Oh, buddy. That's funny.
Yeah, I think that's the first one I've seen.
Yeah.
One. So if that comes back good, yeah, you're free to go.
So again, I really just want to point out a couple of things. The whole interaction starts off weird where, again, the guys in the cop car, they're backing up, then they go, those kids start walking away. Saeed's just randomly crossing. Like, what are the chances that all that's going down, again, at the same time this is happening? with the screen.
Right. And if you listen to those audios carefully and you time up the timing, the body camera footage is within 8 minutes or so of a lot of the screaming and stuff that you hear in the neighborhood. Like the big scream happens, I think, around 27 minutes to 27 or something like that, maybe. But then there's continual sounds of struggles, including the moment that I think could be related to these guys. I pointed this out on my video this morning. You hear these guys hooping and hollering, whoop, 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 you know, and it almost, to me, it sounds fake. It's like they're like, USA, like what? Is there like a USA versus fucking Canada soccer game going on at fucking 3 a.m? I don't know. And so it sounds like they're cheering for a game, but then someone goes, stop, 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 stop. And then you hear another, what sounds like a horrific pain sound of screaming. And that's within minutes of this stop. So you hear all that stuff. You hear a group of guys chanting and shouting and making noise, hooping and hollering, maybe outside, along with stop, 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 and a scream. And then within minutes, these cops are stopping a group of guys running across the band field back to Sigma Chi direction. So is that related?
I have no idea. I mean, I'll let a couple more minutes of this play, DA.
Are these your boys?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Just hang on, man. Yeah, let's wait till dispatch comes back and says you're good. No worries. You guys taking off on me?
Did he just? We thought you were talking.
You all three turned around and I put my flashlight. And you said, "Hey, come here." You guys all turned around and walked away.
I thought it was just like a fake person, honestly. Yeah, like
how many fake people are out here that you've experienced?
Something, so I'm trying to flex those.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, got it.
How's your night going?
Pretty good.
That's good.
Just trying to stay warm.
Is that y'all's car right there?
Yeah.
Undercover.
Well, just trying to save gas. They downgraded us from patrol cars.
Gotcha.
They gave us hybrids to save on fuel.
There you go.
Smart move.
Yeah. All right. Once dispatch lets me know that actually exists, I'll catch you this. All right.
No worries.
You guys over at which department did y'all come from?
I don't know.
He totally knew, like he was gonna say a house there, didn't he? Y'all over at which apartment?
Apartments? Yeah.
You guys over at which department did y'all come from?
I don't know. I was at a friend's house.
I couldn't tell you the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the person hosting the party?
Some guy named Matt, I think.
Okay.
In the middle. Which person? Ethan.
The whole stop, I'm just gonna I guess just to put a quick stop to that is they don't even look like they're hammered at all. They answer all of these questions pretty damn good for a college town late night stop where they don't even have open intoxicants. I don't even think, do they even have a backpack on them where they'd be carrying booze?
No, I didn't see that. And didn't they ask Saeed, are these your boys? And he's like, no. So like he claims to not know who those guys are, right? So he detached himself from those guys. Because I think the cop says, are these your boys? And he's like, no.
It's all just so weird, dude. And speaking of some weird stuff, did I get to the part in that you wanted to talk about, or were you just generalizing about that stop?
Just generalizing about the stop. Yeah, they just again. I feel like the timing. I feel like the timing of the stop, the Banfield stop, does several things. Again, I don't know how versed everybody is on the master service agreement, but there was a patrol that was assigned to the university, a special patrol, a special patrol dedicated to the University of Idaho that operates until 3 a.m. That stop, I think, initiates at like 2:50 or something like that, maybe a little bit sooner, and goes through about 3:15 in the morning. So their shift, I think that shift would have ended maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning. Did they go a little long to finish up the stop since they started the stop at just before 3 o'clock in the mornings? But it feels like it's that special assignment that they were on. And again, I feel like the special assignment that they're on is also the reason why they're in an unmarked car. Because, his answer was basically, oh, well, they downgraded us. We're driving hybrids to save gas. Is it that, or is it because you're on a special patrol assigned to the University of Idaho? So Anyways,
So-
and I know that people aren't necessarily making the big connection why it matters, but I think it does maybe matter. We can get into that, of course, but
Right. Yeah. I agree. And I got a couple other things that I want to, as we're just kind of going through some weird stuff, both right around the time that the crimes happened and then also right after. I was showing you these slides before we went live, so you'd be familiar with them. But I got a couple of stuff, or a couple of things from Chrissy's Chaos. She's always putting out great videos. Shout out to Chrissy. I see her in here every now and again. But this is her page. This is the video that I'm going to be referencing. She just put out earlier today a bunch of random news clips that they seem to go in corresponding order from right after the crime happened, like some of the first reports, all the way to, Steve and Chrissy outside of Moscow PD talking with Fox News. Okay. So now here's what's interesting is I saw one of these clips and I actually screen grabbed it. Tell me what you guys noticed about this. Now, I wish Christy was in here so that I could get the date of this exact report, but I'll play this. Because what do you guys notice already? Already. I mean, I believe this is like the day after, like right away that next morning. That light bulb's missing. The guy's got what seems to be a marshal badge on, like we see many other times. And you look here, you could clearly see there's no camera. And that's why I was wondering when this report is from, because it seems as if the original cop cars are there when, Chrissy's talking about this. And I can pull up the actual clip of it, but I went and I found, shout out to people in the Hive Discord for helping me find that so quickly. I found the report that Mowry was writing about how on the 13th he became aware of this, that there was a surveillance footage. Then on the 17th he requested permission, to go look into it more. But let me just show you the actual clip here, DA.
There's going to be 10,000. If you knew.
Come on.
One call to police, and how did that person make the gruesome discovery?
Right here. This is where it starts, DA. Watch this.
Watched Moscow police cars come in and out of this neighborhood where officials found 4 people dead.
So, I mean, clearly, dude, this is taken that night or like,
yeah,
there's clearly the cops still there.
Neighbors
Boom.
say they began noticing police cars flood the area around 12 p.m. today. Moscow police say they responded to a call here on King Road for an uncommon.
And this leads me to my next slide, which is, well, I guess again, again, it looks like the same badge, right? Everybody remembers the dude inside of 11122. Sorry,
yeah, one can argue it's the same coat, everything, right? I mean,
yeah,
is that the same guy minus a hat?
Maybe.
That looks a lot like the same guy, but
yeah, I've never seen him walking out of 1112 though. Have you?
No.
And then from the next screen, I noticed this. And I'm like, why the hell is the blue RAV4 have this weird license plate on it that just says 1A? And I thought to myself, I'm like, that doesn't look like a civilian license tag. So I did some research and then I also just quick copy and pasted what ChatGPT gave me as a response. And it says the plate is not a standard Idaho passenger plate. The giveaway is the 1A. It's a restricted or special use plate. Typically, they're very short with alphanumeric formats like 1A or 2B. They're typically not civilian. They're most commonly associated with state or local government vehicles. And it even, doesn't it look like it's got a damn zip tie holding it on up here?
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like a zip tie at the top, not like a bolt.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means. I'm not claiming it means anything. However, it reminded me of what everybody started talking about. How was Bethany in this blue RAV4 seeing the cop stop, turn around, and then go park right there? I'm like, that's extremely weird if that's the car that Bethany arrived back at the scene when all the original 911 body cam is being released, where you don't see her at the house and then they walk outside again, you see her across the street. So I don't know what it is. but it caught my eye and I thought it was interesting. I'd be curious if anybody in the chat has any theories on that, or DA, if you have anything.
I don't know. I got sidetracked because that guy's badge. I was trying to look. What I was trying to do is I was trying to look up over on Google while we were talking the difference between a Latah County Sheriff's, for example, badge versus U.S. Marshal's badge. And unfortunately, the images that Google came up with, neither one of them look like the badge that he's wearing. So I don't know what we've always assumed. I think that was Marshal's badge. It looks like a Marshal's badge. I've seen in other places, but like if you look up, just Google search, U.S. Marshal's badge, even if you try to get pictures of with them, they have a circle around it, a big circle around it. So I don't know what that badge is. Is it a U.S. Marshal's badge? Is it a sheriff's badge? Does anybody know who the fuck that guy is? That would be nice. Pardon my French, but does anybody know who that guy is? Because it looks like the same guy. It looks like the same guy that, and wasn't he one of the guys that went in with the whole quote unquote cowboys that went in, a group of guys that went in that had those badges on and were going into the house, and everybody's like, why the hell are the marshals at the 1122 King Road residence? What the hell does a incel from Pullman have to do with U.S. federal marshals and shit? Like, one has to ask, but
yeah, I'm trying to look up so it's around the neck, right?
Yeah.
And let me put that back on screen here. So there's no circle. Well, let's just see what.
I'm trying to get a picture to show you that.
Yeah, no, I found I could put a picture up there, but like, let's just see this. What badge is this?
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I love it.
Curious to see what it says. It's almost certainly a sheriff's badge.
Okay. So that's what I was wondering. Like, I mean, I hate doing it live,
yeah.
but like, is it a county sheriff's badge versus a marshal's badge? Have we been wrong that it was nothing to do with marshals? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very unlikely to be FBI. Possible, but not typical for U.S. Marshal. And it just says it's a sheriff style star. But was the sheriff ever... Interesting.
Yeah, I've got I was going to share something. I don't know that this is what they would typically wear, but I put an asset on the backstage of what the sheriff's what you can see has the chain that they would wear around their neck. So that looks like what some special deputies. I don't know if a special deputy and a regular marshal or have a difference, but it has a chain around it, which makes it indicate that's to be worn around the neck, which would look the same. So that's what I was trying to double check myself, is like we keep making the comment that it looks like the marshals were there. And so I was like, well, I said that too, but like, is that badge specifically U.S. Marshals, or could it have been a sheriff's department's badge? But if you look at, I'll tell you this, if you look up online, Latah County Sheriff's Department, it has a circle around it as well. It doesn't look like the one that you guys wearing in there.
I just did that, and I found the same type of circle around it.
Right.
So I'm trying to find anybody. I'm trying to find one that has the dog tag type necklace with it, or whatever, how they wear it around their neck. I can't.
But the bottom line, I mean, there's several things you saw there, right? Which is that what it doesn't look like. I'll tell you what it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like a Moscow Police Department officer. That's not how they would be dressed, right? So then you have to, what agency is going to the house? If the light bulb that's missing is the Ring camera, then had it already been confiscated at that point? There's a lot of questions that have to ask about the timing of that video footage.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask Christy. So I don't know when that report was from, but it did look like it was shortly after. But yeah, that's some of the stuff that I had, for tonight to dive into.
Yeah.
It just makes you really wonder though, DA, why is it that there seems to be from all angles this stop, just stop asking questions. You have everyone, I'm sure, has seen now. They got called this Facebook post that was really going scorched earth, telling people to stop this and saying, I don't even want to put words in their mouth, because I think that it definitely follows a pattern of how they talk in public and to the media. I'll leave it at that. It seems like they want the public's help on some things and then shut up on the other stuff. I don't know. I don't know how to make of it either. Like, on the one hand, every day it seems like, I don't want to bash. I'm not trying to bash families, but it seems like every day they're on they're on some new TV show or YouTube channel or whatever. Like, every second they're on TV talking about things, giving details that they're not supposed to give, or making speculations that they're not supposed to do, and then simultaneously telling everybody else, shut up and stop talking about this. This is painful to us. Like, so again, like, you can talk about it every single day on every show in America, every 2 seconds, giving conflicting information and stories that change repeatedly, but all us bitches need to stop talking about it. Yeah. Like I said, it's the speed bag. Right. Well, dude, I want you to see a couple more of these clips from Christy's Chaos. I'm not going to show the whole thing just because I want people to go to her page and watch it. But that was a good one, though. Yeah. Oops. Wrong asset. Don't show my ass on screen. Pause. All right, let's listen to a couple of these, because she's got some really early clips that I forgot about.
For an unconscious individual. Upon further investigation, officials found 4 people dead. While police investigated the scene, the University of Idaho enacted a shelter-in-place alert as university officials reported a homicide near campus. As we've stated, that alert is lifted at this time. Neighbors say most people living in this area are a part of U of I Greek life or are students, but we do not know the identities of those involved or who lives at the residence. Officials are investigating. This is a very much developing situation, and we will continue to stay on the grounds until we have more information to report back to you. Until then, in Moscow.
King Road at 1:45 a.m. The fraternity is a short 3-minute walk from the house, but still, there is a 5-hour gap on their location between the party and arriving at home. Investigators hope someone might remember being at or near the locations they've identified around the same time and potentially saw something suspicious or relevant to the investigation. Police are asking those people to call the tip line or email with that information. Cash register taking the girl's order. This afternoon, he described their interaction with me.
One of the blondes was just a little bit more cheery and kind of
like, I've never seen a lot of these. Have you? No, it's kind of cool because anyways, it's like right after
bouncing around a little bit more, and then one was like standing there and doing the hello, how are you, and goes through the interactions. And normally that's pretty normal. In most of our groups, there's people that are more energetic and people that are managing the energetic people.
Joseph told me he felt incredibly sad when he learned the news about the girls he had just seen the other night.
Hope they find the person. Hope they get the person.
On this suspect.
Okay. This is the clip that I wanted it to get to. I want, just because of, again, that last Facebook post, I want you to listen to how different the tone is, what the messaging is, and then towards the end of this clip, you're going to hear something that I was like, I don't know how that I've missed what he says in the past. Because it's a very, although we've heard Kaylee is the target, okay, right? We've heard them be very, I guess, they've been very clear about, we believe Kaylee was the target, the wounds don't match, all this other stuff. Just keep that in mind when you listen to this.
Within 2 weeks of the crimes being committed, and yet for 4 more weeks, he was in Moscow, he was in Pullman, he was crossing the country. And I wanted to get your thoughts just on the notion that there were so many other people, classmates, neighbors, both in Washington and in Pennsylvania, who may have been at risk because they were so close to him before he was actually brought in cuffs. What were your thoughts about that?
I think we all kind of shared that as a community, that there was a risk of somebody being out there. And I took that very personal, because I had so much weight on top of me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family were being took that very personal, because I had so much weight on top of me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family were being hurt with me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family were being hurt with just overall me.
What does that mean? Isn't that a little bit interesting?
Yeah.
I had a lot of weight on me because I knew that there was a lot of these other victims had a lot of weight on.
You know what gets me, Bertie? I hate to say this. I'm not gonna make a speculation. I'm just gonna tell you something, and you can go back and play this clip for a second. So I was told, and I hope I get this right. I was told that people who read body language experts and stuff like that, when your eyes go up and to the left versus up and to the right, it means two different things. When you're trying to recall events, you go up and to the left for your analytical side of the brain to recall events. When you go up and to the right, it's creativity center. And so you're looking to create a story or a narrative kind of thing. And people that study body language will say, watch the eyes. And when they look up to search for something, if they're looking to the up and to the right or up and to the left, it tells you whether they're looking for a creative, making something up kind of answer, or whether they're doing recollection answers. So It's kind of interesting watching Steve Gonzalez's eyes during his conversation. But that's all I got to say about that.
That's interesting. Let's watch.
In Pullman, and yet for 4 more weeks, he was in Moscow, he was in Pullman, he was crossing the country. And I wanted to get your thoughts just on the notion that there were so many other people, classmates, neighbors, both in Washington and in Pennsylvania, who may have been at risk because they were so close to him before he was actually brought in cuffs. What were your thoughts about that?
I think we all kind of shared that as a community, that there was a risk of somebody being out there. And I took that very personal, because I had so much weight on top of me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family were being hurt with just overall media and coverage. But these guys, there's no perfect way to do this. And these officers they just did an amazing job. And I was hard on them, and I'll come out and say that I owe them all the gratitude in the world, and I've always supported the police. But it's the school of thought that I come from. Like, everybody can do their best, and they need to come to the every day trying to be the best person that they can possibly be. So I won't back off of that, but these guys did an amazing job. They need more credit than they had. I mean, people think Idaho is so old fashioned and out back, but these guys, they hit a home run, man. That affidavit is impressive. And I'm glad to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong. And I told them to their face, I looked them in their eyes and said, prove me wrong, and all is forgiven. And here we are, and all is forgiven. And I'll say that on camera, and I'll tell everybody, I was concerned, but I was wrong. They were right. And I'm okay with that. I have my person now. We have our person of interest, our defendant, and we will go after him, and he better be ready.
This afternoon, that there were 4 homicides.
So it goes through all those clips. Like I said, if you guys want to watch the full page, go to or the full video, Christie's Chaos right here. Always.
Yeah, there's some good. I mean, it's kind of interesting watching those clips and kind of seeing all, like, when they're talking, when even news reporters are talking, my eyes are all over. Oh, there's Lanier. There's, like, I'm looking at all the different, officers I know now and where they're at, and it's kind of interesting going back and looking at that stuff again.
I agree. And DA, we got a couple of super chats I want to address just so we don't blow by them if they were about something we just talked about. And while I'm doing this, Hive, take 2 seconds, swipe down on the chat, press the like button. We really appreciate that. That helps get this out into the ether webs and the algorithm. Amanda B from West Virginia gave DA a big super chat saying, thank you, Lee, for everything you do. Honored to be part of the team.
Whoop, whoop. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And we got Blue-Eyed Candy. Always great to see her. Says, even when confidential informants exist, their identities and handling are often protected. Idaho's Evidence Rule 509 recognizes a government privilege to refuse to disclose an informant's identity in many situations. Idaho Supreme Court. That's interesting. So that does take me back to where, would that classify as national security? Would that be just normally redacted? What about when you put things into CODIS? If somebody's an active CI, does their do their prints not come back into CODIS? Because what happens if somebody who's not aware of an ongoing investigation runs their prints and they blow the cover on a CI? I don't know.
Do you mind if I correct or clarify something on the up and to the right thing? Because I noticed that, like Steve most of the time was looking up and to the right. I wanted to clarify something while we were talking. I was trying to make sure that I told you I was going by memory. I wanted to read something as I did a little ChatGPT sniff test on it. Looking up and to the right, lying claims come from early NLP, neuro-linguistic programming theories from the 1970s and 80s, which suggests that up and to the right, visual construction is making something up. Up and to the left is visual recall or remembering something that's real. The idea became popular in police folklore, TV shows, interrogation myths, and online body language, but it does not hold up on scientific testing. So that is, I just wanted to clarify. Like I told you, like, this is what I remember from way back in the day, and I'm that fucking old. I'm that old. Like I lived in the 80s, right? So I remember being told, oh yeah, somebody's looking up and to the right when they're giving a statement to the police or coming up with creative answers, and apparently that's not scientifically proven. So I want to be able to correct myself and not let people think that I just stated something incorrect. I told you I was remembering it and could be remembering it wrong.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No, I mean, it was an interesting take for sure that you had. All right, we got two more quick ones. Grammy Tammy says, it was an extraction. They're all in Este's basement.
Fair. Yeah, fair.
And so thank you, Grammy Tammy, for that one. And then we got the White Rabbit saying the Goncalveses are for sale. Prostitutes, RIP KG. I'm wondering if they misspelled a word there, but thank you so much, White Rabbit, for the super chat over on DA's side. Man.
Oh yeah, so prostitutes. They're making a play on words that they're prostitutes for the press, right? They're prostitutes.
Oh, how did I miss that?
I don't know. I just put it together myself. I'm like, prostitutes. What are they?
Sorry, White Rabbit. Yeah,
prostitutes for the press. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a new one. I've never heard that.
I think they just made that shit up, and it was pretty clever.
DA, honest question. You put yourself in one of the victim's family's shoes. I know that you said that you've been able to, you feel like maybe there's a chance you would be relating to Steve G and his approach.
Yeah.
And like, I just want to get the damn truth for my daughter. What happened?
Yeah.
What would you do differently after kind of seeing all of the press play out with that family? Because I do wonder if there's an aspect to now, like you see things like this Facebook post, right? Where it's kind of all over the map. I understand the chaos of it, but we're years out at this point. You should be familiar with the press. You should understand that people are going to be looking at everything your family says with a microscope. How do you course correct at this point and start to get some sort of, the only word that comes to mind is like credibility back when it comes to, if I'm going to put this information out there and people are going to look into it, I'm not going to come back and say they were wrong. Why'd they dive into it? Right.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm one of the only people in America that seems to give any sympathy to Steve Gonsalves, because I just see myself again. I'm going to be clear. Like, I never really say this, but I don't have children. So I don't have a daughter. I know that somebody told me, I hope somebody murders your daughter, so you know what it feels like. I don't have a daughter. So thank you very much for giving me that shithole thing. And I would have taken it a lot more personal if I had a daughter, but I don't. So when I say that how I would act as a father, I don't know, because I'm not a father, but I could imagine that if I was a father, a lot of the things that I would have done in Steve's position, I feel like I would have done similarly. I would have been out there being like, I don't give a fuck what you guys are doing. I'm going to find the answers. I'll hire my own private investigator. I'll ask my damn questions. Thank you very much. And from time to time, I could imagine being convinced, look, for your own good, you need to shut your mouth. And then maybe I'd shut my mouth for a while. Like, okay, I'm going to trust you, but you know what? Fuck it. You guys aren't doing shit. So I'm back on the warpath again. Like, I could see myself going through that same struggle of, in moments, going, okay, I'm going to trust the process. No, fuck your process. I'm going to go get my own answers. Okay, maybe I'll trust the process again. Nope, you know what? Fuck your process. So I can see a lot of that back and forth shit in Steve is something that I might do if I were a father and I was like, I'm going to get the damn answer. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll trust you as long as you are on the path to get the answers. But as soon as you get off the path of getting the answers, then I'll do it myself. So I don't know.
You know, because I've thought a lot about this. Obviously, this case has been a giant part of a lot of people's lives who stream and look into it and are truth seekers. It's definitely been a topic of conversation in a ton of conversations that I have with family, with friends, with my wife. And one of the things that my wife and I have actually talked about is, first, if we were ever in this position, the first thing that we are going to understand is that we're never going to let law enforcement be the sole gatekeeper of information. And I think one of the most critical errors that was made here was that these families, they assumed that cooperation would equal transparency. I believe Steve G even says that. He's like, I'm cooperating with them and now they're not giving me anything. Right? It doesn't, right? Cooperation might get you some politeness. It might get you them to be a little bit nicer to you, but it doesn't get you answers.
Yeah.
And I would immediately be building and continuing to strengthen this independent investigation on my own end if I really felt like I was not getting information that I wanted. And I would not be running to the press with it. That would be all under wraps.
Yeah. And there's times I don't want to spend forever on Steve, right? But there's times, going back to the earliest interviews with Steve Gonzalez, where he'd said things like, don't make me be the one to tell what happened. You guys man up, be the alpha, and tell people what happened. Don't make me say it. And I think it's because Steve Gonzalez knew things about the crime that he was told to shut his mouth about. And so he was sitting there frustrated, like, okay, if I'm going to shut my mouth, then you fucking tell people the truth, but you won't. So don't make me have to violate the gag order. Don't make me have to be the one to come out and tell people, because you guys won't fucking tell the real truth. Like, I think I can, like I said, I feel like I can tell. He knew the media and law enforcement knew facts about the crime that they weren't telling the public about. And he's getting pissed about it because he's like, don't make me break the rules. You guys told me to keep my mouth shut. So tell the fucking truth. And if you aren't, I'm going to do it. So I'm trying to keep my mouth shut, but you guys man up and tell what happened. But they wouldn't.
And I think too, you wouldn't want to necessarily try to argue facts publicly. Looking back on this, you'd want to understand, like, what leverage do you have to be able to argue those facts and maybe have some strategic silence
and at some point,
time.
At some point, he may have to have been worried about being arrested for contempt of court, right? So if a judge has ordered him to keep his mouth shut, he's got to play a real fine line between it. He has a constitutional right to speak what he feels, especially in his position. He shouldn't. None of the families should have been silenced. They have the right to talk if they want to. That's their First Amendment right. But they were kind of gagged in this situation. So he's got that fine line to ride. Do I speak my truth and possibly get arrested by a judge who's going to consider me in contempt of court for violating the gag order? Or do I go my constitutional rights and I paid that bill. I have the right to fucking talk about it if I want to. So again, it's a back and forth game. Like, do I risk getting arrested or do I have the right to say what I want to say?
Well, do you know what you had brought up in the beginning of the stream was talking about that informant program, or not an informant program. Sorry.
The master service agreement between the Moscow Police Department and the University of Idaho. Yeah.
Which could open the door for somebody to be an informant, which is really kind of the bulk of what we wanted to talk about, right?
Yes. Sorry, Bertie,
no, go for it.
To cut you off. I think it, without saying confidential informant, that document literally spells out confidential informant, because what it says is every fraternity and sorority will be appointed a Moscow Police Department official to that sorority or fraternity. It indicates that there's a one-on-one relationship between a police officer and somebody who's the spokesman for their sorority or fraternity to meet with law enforcement on a regular basis. That's really close to a confidential informant. And before people would bust my nuts saying, you don't clearly understand how law enforcement works, because confidential informants don't talk to police officers. They'll talk to like detectives or like that, but it wouldn't be a police officer. But literally the contractual agreement said a law enforcement police officer will be assigned to every sorority and fraternity. So did you have, and look, Bertie, I told you before, like, we haven't talked about it here on the show, but let's break down a thought exercise. Let's say the university agreed to a contractual agreement that they would have officers, 7 different officers would make contacts with the fraternities and sororities to have a point of contact, right? So now let's say they've literally authorized police officer A to have a private and personal relationship with a sorority girl. And it's all sanctioned. It's under the books. They got a contractual agreement. One officer will have a contact in that sorority. Let's say that their relationship got a little too friendly. They meet with each other on a personal, private basis on a regular basis. They start getting a little too friendly, and a relationship or inappropriate situation happens between that police officer and that sorority girl. And then it comes out later on that there's murders involving that sorority girl and the police officer. And then they're like, oh shit, we literally created a scenario in which an officer had excuses to talk privately to a sorority girl on a regular basis. And it's going to look really bad for us that we set up a scenario where an officer could have been maybe fooling around. So I'm not saying that happened, but is there a scenario in your mind in which the university would want to cover that shit up and be like, oh my God, we don't want that coming out?
Okay. As you're saying this, because what would happen if even that wasn't related to the murders, right? So hear me out. If maybe in this situation, it wasn't related to the King Road homicides, but what does it do? It puts that program into the light, right? So they're there, that program, just for people that aren't aware, and DA, I kind of cut out, so you probably said that, but it's to prevent sexual assault. It's crowd control, threat assessments, drug kind of low level information where it's, you didn't hear this from me, right? There's really no paper trail. It's just a tip. It's like tips from people that are in chapter leadership in Greek Row is how I would interpret that. But what if, are those documented? So now maybe the King Road homicides don't have anything to do with it, but maybe that program's existed for how many years where you now go back to a frat hazing death, other sexual assaults that weren't investigated right. Now that's actually a completely separate scandal than the King Road ones because it's in the light. It didn't have anything to do with the King Road murders, but there could be other families that are listening that are like, hold on. So you're going to tell me that the campus police had this formalized liaison with all of Greek Row, that they were receiving tips and hearing things as to what happened, but that didn't get reported in these cases? That would be huge.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many scenarios that one contract can explain. Another scenario, Bertie, is the again, like you just said, that contractual agreement was for police officers to also work with an informant, if you will, inside a sorority or fraternity to kind of rat on drug activity in the sorority or fraternity. So again, if the dollar amounts of drugs are big enough and somebody finds out that there's been an agreement, an arrangement between somebody in the fraternity or sorority to talk to Moscow police and tell them about the drug activity that's running through that sorority or fraternity, would somebody say, oh, you're ratting us out to the cops? You're fucking dead. So, I mean, again, enough money. And again, if that was the situation, if they were working with sorority and fraternity members to look for drug running through the sororities and fraternities, and that ended up getting found out, and someone said, oh my God, you guys are working with the police, I'm going to kill everybody in that, that's been doing that. Again, a reason to cover that whole program up. Like, we literally just created the scenario that got these kids killed because they were ratting for the police, because we set that scenario up where they would rat to us on a regular basis. And it would be a huge embarrassment to the university and to Moscow Police Department to say, we literally created this situation that got these kids killed because we were asking them to rat on drugs. They did, and they got killed.
Maybe because they had no idea that whatever tip they were giving overlapped with an already ongoing major investigation. Imagine that for a second. What if there was a tip that was within just the frats where they hear something crazy? For example, what if one of these people, right? Let's just apply it to somebody that's in that house, right? It could be Ethan. What if Ethan's, that person, the liaison, or Kaylee is, or Maddie is, whatever, it could be any of them. And they overhear something that they're like, that's effing crazy. And they report that. And now, like, what's the threshold that would trigger some sort of disclosure, maybe not to a prosecutor, but to trigger some sort of like, oh shit, this has made its way into the frats and the sororities, and it's overlapping with a major crime or a major ongoing investigation. That could sound off a lot of alarm bells.
Yeah. And then we already know there was a multi-jurisdictional drug task force at the time. So they could have inadvertently gotten involved with the FBI investigation that was already going on through their contacts and their fraternities. I know this is, or sororities. I know this is getting a lot pretty deep for people, but it's just theory crafting about, because of what, at the end of the day, what we're saying is, or I've been saying is, it feels like law enforcement already knows what happened that night. And so that's why they didn't ask a lot of questions. You don't have to ask questions that you already know the answer to. And I feel like a lot of the answers are, they already know what happened at the house. And so they didn't have to ask a lot of follow-on questions. And they could rule people out as being non-suspects very quickly because they know damn well what did happen. So they knew who was and wasn't involved, and they could quickly rule people out without asking the right questions.
I wonder if it ever flows. So the way that I would classify that is that's like information flowing upstream, right? So it goes from these frats and it goes upstream. I wonder if there's ever downstream, meaning are these kids who are in these positions ever maybe let in on a little tidbit of information where keep your ear open for something about this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine that a little bit of that could be leaked out to them. Somebody, by the way, had asked real quick, and I wanted to see if you know the answer, or we can clarify the answer. So somebody asked, well, how many of the girls were in sororities? Here's what I think I know. Ethan was a member of Sigma Chi. Maddie, it was Bethany's big. And I think Pi Phi, was that the acronym of the sorority that they were both in?
Or whatever it is.
Pi Phi. Yeah, I'm horrible with the Greek pronunciations apparently, which is ironic since I spent. Anyways, the point being is that so whatever it was, they were, and I think Dylan also was in that same. I think Dylan, Maddie, and Bethany were all in the same sorority. Although I think Dylan may have left the sorority and was no longer associated with it, and Kaylee was in Alpha Phi. So she was in a different one. So where am I going with that? So you've got one victim and two of the survivors all in the same sorority. You got one of the victims in a different sorority. You got another of the victims in a different fraternity. I don't remember what Xana was connected with. Do you know what Xana's sorority was?
I believe that all of the victims had left.
I thought, yeah, Kaylee had left Alpha Phi.
But Xana, off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember which one it was. Was it Pi Phi as well, or was it?
That's what I was trying to remember. I don't remember what Xana's was. But the point being is that it seems like there was 3 or 4 Greek life stuff involved in that house. And look, it's complete crazy thing. But if you did have an officer that was embedded, right? If you have an officer assigned to every single fraternity and sorority, is there a scenario in which multiple people in the house was a cop's point of contact, and that house was a kind of a one-stop shopping to get reports on 3 or 4 different Greek life places at the same time? I can check in the house and I can get an update on Sigma Chi, Alpha Phi, all the 3 different places. I don't know. That may be, all of this, by the way, is just questions. Now that we know that the contractual agreement existed between Moscow Police Department to embed police officers with a point of contact in every sorority, then the question becomes, and this is what I filed a public records request for, is like, so this, I don't know if it's going to have any teeth, but I filed a very, very carefully crafted thing that said, look, you cannot deny, it's public record. Taxpayer dollars have paid for this program. We know there's a master service agreement that gives University in Moscow, Idaho, this connection. So please tell me where our tax dollars went. What officers were assigned to that special program? What sororities were those officers assigned to? Because I want to start connecting the dots. Were any of the officers around that house that night assigned any of the girls in that house as their point of contact? Now, they probably will hide, I would guess. They will probably hide who their actual contacts are. But again, it's a kind of a slippery slope because tax dollars are paying for the police department. And so taxpayers have a right to know where their money is going. So as long as they redact out names, they should at least be able to say, well, this officer was assigned to Alpha Phi. This officer was, and then maybe they can redact who their point of contact is, but you can get closer and closer as you start pulling the thread.
I gotta blow my nose real quick. Sorry. Like I said, I've been fighting this cold off. I'll be right back, dude.
All right. I'll look for some questions or something to from the audience. I got 2 different chats. I'm watching Birdie's chat and my chat at the same time. So is there anything that anybody wants to ask while I'm there? Man, there's so many different theories, by the way. I heard a crazy theory about, well, it's not even crazy theory, but I heard a theory about Ethan Chapin being the target. That was the first time I've had real teeth to tickle videos for DA. Yep, yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I heard a really good theory on the Ethan Chapin story that might even answer the question. What did you tell Adam? Crazy shit. All right, Birdie's back. How would Kopaka play into the drug thing in your? Okay, how would Kopaka play into the drug thing in your opinion? That was a question. I'll just do a quick riff. Even though Birdie's back, I'll make a quick riff. If Kopaka knew people in the drug connection, and again, Pavarotti has come up with some stuff connecting Kopaka to having connections in the drug community. If Kopaka knew people in the drug community and was himself doing drugs, then it could be, in my theory, logical that if somebody needed somebody paid back for ripping some people off on drugs, such as the rumor that Maddie flushed a bunch of money of drugs or whatever, if that was the case, they would be looking for somebody with a certain set of skills that they could hire to do a hit. So that's how I would say a possible connection to Kopaka would be to the murders would be if somebody hired Kopaka, for example, because he's connected with drugs. He could, again, there's no proof of any of this. So be sure that I'm just telling you how I would reason out how he could have a connection. So there is indication that he had a drug history. There is indication that he was a Army Ranger that was trained in knife fighting. He had the skills that could have done what happened in the house that night. So could he have been hired in part to pull it off? Can't prove it, but that would be a scenario.
I have a question in regards to all these, going back to the informant talk. Why not sue Idaho then as the victims' families? Why sue WSU? Why have that be the place that they're talking about suing? They said, if you remember when we read that, it talks about WSU created the conditions that allowed this to happen.
Well, I'll tell you this, Bertie, it's a great question. And I don't know if you're asking your audience or asking me. So
everybody.
I'm going to take a stab at it. WSU was the obvious first choice because Brian Koberger, they have a history. Supposedly they have a documented history of professors and stuff having problems with Brian Koberger that they had put into writing and emails. Hey, look, this guy is potentially a problem. He's misogynistic. If we keep him and we give him a PhD, he may become a problem for the university. And that's why WSU is being sued, because they're basically saying, look, you guys knew it was that he was a problem and you didn't stop it. But you have a point. Right now, that master service agreement gives them room to sue the University of Idaho, because they literally could have created a scenario in which the University of Idaho, with their connection with the police department, could have gotten people killed in that house. And so they could possibly be now sued for their potential helping out with that problem happening. And by the way, real quick, as a shocker, and then I got to take my break to blow my nose, although I'm not going to blow my nose, I'm going to do something else, but we won't talk about that on camera. The point being is that I got to take a leak. Okay, we will talk about it on the camera. Anyways, the point being is that did you know that master service agreement requires that if a crime is committed involving university students, Moscow Police Department is required to immediately notify the University of Idaho and allow them to come in on investigations and see all police reports and all interviews related to any crime involving students. So the University of Idaho specifically had a contractual requirement to be included in all the investigation of that murder.
That is interesting. That's crazy. And we've not really seen much of that at all. So if you want to go take your
I'm going to step away. Take me off camera for a minute. I'm going to step away.
All right. DA. Someone said DA's got a fart. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, let me check in with the chat here real quick. Grandma Grizz, it's one of my favorite usernames. What can be proven in this case? Well, I don't know. Kind of bite my tongue on that, because there's things that they seem to be proven just because they prove part of the narrative. There seems to be other things that they don't line up with the narrative, but they're still proof. There's a lot of back and forth. let's see. Yeah, the university knew before the parents. Love and Other Habits says nothing. Luna says the only thing that can be proven is that this case was grossly mishandled from the start. Yep. Apparently, everybody knew before the parents, is what Sluther Dare says. Man, it's just it's tough because when I love talking with DA. I love getting up here and theorizing. It's getting to the point where, as I've said many times, if we're going to find the truth in this case, I don't think that it's just buried in the documents. I think that you have to be able to piece things together by thinking outside of the narrative and outside of the documents, that if you looked at something that's written, you just got to look through a completely different lens and it might make sense. And Poetic Justice, thank you for the super chat, says, Bertie, can you find out if that is the real Jack Showalter? I'm sure people have seen in the chat, there's a Jack Showalter Idaho 4. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bet, I'll bet this entire channel that it's not the real Jack Showalter, and that I could also probably guess who exactly this person is. So no, it's not.
Yeah, no, I will almost
Bertie is
assure you
correct.
Jack Showalter did not just show up on the chat.
No, I mean, at one point or another, we've had Detective Mowry, we had Ann Taylor, we've had
I've had Dylan Mortensen in my chat.
Dylan's
Yeah,
been in here
person.
as well. Yeah. it's
It is what it is. We've learned the MO.
Yeah, we've learned the MO. So dude, let me ask you this. What do you think happened? What do you think happened? Like, I let's just get right to it. What do you think happened? So leading up to that night, the girls are at the grub truck. Did you happen to see the stream? Or I don't know if you were, I don't think you were a guest on this one, but we figured out that the Twitch stream, this was really interesting because I've been trying to figure this out for years. Somebody pointed out that Twitch, they don't give you wall clock time, and that the time is actually the same for everybody watching the stream. For example, that time is the run time of how long they've been streaming. So for example, if you look at our live time right now, it says 1 hour, 17 minutes and 19 seconds. So that's how we can actually confirm if that is what it is. I tend to believe that it is, but it's, it says 350 point whatever. Well, if you subtract when they open at 10:30, that's how they get to 1:56 in the morning. It's not necessarily subtracting time zones from where somebody was watching it, because that time doesn't change for anybody that views the Twitch. Now, whether or not that's true, I will say the one thing that does point to, instead of trying to come up with daylight savings or time zones, is it gives you something that we can relate to with our streams. The time on this, and it says how long it's been running.
So then you just have to know when this feed exactly started, and then just add the time differential to find out where you're at in the time of day.
Correct. Now, I'm not sure 100%, but that was something that I've never had heard that before.
Yeah, interesting.
So, anyways, let's go back to that question. What happened?
What do you think happened?
Like, do you think that this was in motion prior to Kaylee ever coming back? Do you think that it was a coincidence Kaylee was there? Let's start back that far.
No, I don't think it was a coincidence Kaylee is there. I feel certain Kaylee was lured back to the house to be there that night. That's my gut. That's my gut.
To have this go down. To have this go down.
Well, what I'm not certain, it's a gut. It's a gut feeling. My gut feeling, based on what I see, is it's not coincidence that the things that led her to be there was not a coincidence. Kaylee was lured to be there for that night. Whether that means she was the target, or whether the house was a target and someone wanted to make sure she was there that night for the house hit, I'm not certain about. So you follow what I'm saying? Like, she may have been lured back because she was the target, or she may have been lured back because they knew the hit was coming on the house and they wanted to make sure she was one of them. So I don't know.
Everything me 23. Thank you for the super chat. This is actually the DA says, "Don't speculate, DA. ... Receipts."
I do a lot of receipts. I try to really. I will tell you when something is a guess, and like I just did. My guess is Kaylee was lured back. Now the receipts on that we could go into, but I don't want to bore the audience. So I want you to be able to follow up with your other questions. I know you have a lot more questions because there are receipts, right? There are receipts to believe why Kaylee was lured back, and I could give the receipts, but that's just the gut feeling.
So the reason why I asked you to start with that is because now what we're talking about is we're talking about a premeditated crime.
Yes.
We're talking about premeditated crime where there's going to be a paper trail, where this is probably talked about on the phones, or there's some conversation via text message or an app or some sort of messaging that they would be able to track down. You would think.
I tend to agree with you. I tend to believe it was a premeditated crime. In other words, it wasn't just a fight that got out of hand and then a bunch of people got killed. It wasn't a random act of violence. There was forethought into what was going to happen that night. And that's why, again, because you can't have it both ways. You can't say Kaylee was lured back to the house and then say, well, it was just a fight that got out of hand. Well, then how did they know a fight was going to get out of hand that night? So you have to go with if you're going to go like I did, that you think Kaylee was lured back, then it has to have been a premeditated attack.
Right. And then I asked that because now you listen to what Brian Koberger pleads to with malice and forethought. But then immediately after in the press conference, they're like, does he have a motive? No. Why did he pick that house? I don't know. So that how are the investigators getting this man to plead to malice and forethought on a premeditated crime when they're saying he randomly chose this house? We don't know why. We don't have the murder weapon. He's got no connection to them. Is it possible to premeditate a crime with no motive, connection? I can't get my head around that.
I think he has a connection. My guess, although I'm starting to question myself with the whole, was it really Brian Koberger's car that showed up at 407? Because now we're not sure that Brian Koberger's car is definitively the car that shows up at 407. But I have theorized what happened was this. The hit did not involve Brian Koberger. Koberger wasn't there and didn't do the killing. But Brian Koberger may have been asked to come to the house as part of the cleanup afterwards or something to that effect, and showed up later. And because of that, law enforcement knows definitively Brian Koberger was there at the house. And so they just shifted to make sure to pin it on him because they know he was there. And this would explain has anybody else been arrested with this? Because Brian Koberger knows, I was there and I'm fucked because I was there and they're going to pin it on me, but I didn't do the killings. And so he's hoping that, it'll come out what really happened that night. And because they know he was there. That's my best guess. Because they know he was there. They just said, screw it. We can convince people he's the one that actually did it. We know he was there. We just got to place him in the house with some DNA, which, by the way, somebody just sent me recently an official and it's in documents. I've got it. I wish I could pull it up on the screen. An official that said, hey, just a warning to you guys on the investigation. I wouldn't use that DNA if I were you. That DNA is bullshit. It's not going to stand up in court, which is why I think they said, we don't intend to use the DNA in court, because they were warned by an official. Don't use the DNA. It's got problems. You can't use that in court. And then they said, you know what? We don't even plan on using the DNA in court because we got enough circumstantial evidence. They knew the DNA was bullshit. And yet everyone in America convicted Brian Koberger on DNA when they never were going to show the DNA in court because they knew it was a problem. And again, to finish my thought, because I'm long fucking winded, is they knew Brian Koberger was there, but they couldn't place him in the house. Just like Bill Thompson said, we can't place Brian Koberger in the house. They feel like he was there, so they just got to try to find a way to place him there. And they tried to do it through Molly McMichael saying she saw him there. They tried to do it through DNA, which they couldn't present because they fucking lied about the DNA. They were trying desperately to place Brian Koberger in the house, and they couldn't. But they knew he was there. Like in their gut, they knew he was there. They just couldn't place him in the house.
Well, it's just crazy too, because then if you point that out, it actually brings me into the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day when you call out all of these things. I was showing you this backstage, and I'm curious how many people know about this. And that is, that these fact checkers are actually privately funded interest groups. They're funded by big tech companies, being YouTube, Google, Facebook. They've partnered with governments all over the world, and they're actually shielded from transparency laws. Why do I bring this up? Not just to hopefully help inform people when you see a fact checker, that doesn't mean you should just write it off as being untrue. No, but because there are receipts and a paper trail that you can follow, whether it be a presidential election, whether it be some news story, whether it be on X, you got like the Grok highlights or whatever started happening during COVID, pretty much, where there was like this fact checking thing. These are funded by the tech companies. These are things that have partnered with governments. They are shielded from transparency laws. Now, most people would know that. My point is this: think of how we don't even necessarily need, quote, fact checker statements now underneath our media. We just need the media to come out and say, no, that's conspiracy. No, that is fringe online internet sleuths. And it does the same damn thing. It creates this doubt to where you are in a war on information. You are in a war on the narrative. And I think that this case with the narrative surrounding it, I've said for so long, DA, if we don't change the narrative surrounding the Idaho 4, we are all effed.
Yeah, because they're going to do this kind of shit over and over again because it never gets brought to light. Right.
It never gets brought to light. And I just want to make sure, too, that I don't forget any of these last super chats that came in, DA. Nina says, new to the hive. Great stuff, Birdie. Keep it up. Well, welcome, Nina. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're happy to have you here. Pinor, they told me how to say this last time. Pinor, man. I'm so sorry. But thank you for the super chat. And Javina says, wow, first time watching a live on the TV. You both look great. Thanks for your hard work, sprinkled in with a little tinsel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Blue-Eyed Candy hit the nail on the head. Liability is money, or liability equals money with no accountability. And Sky Blue Eyes says, look at what WSU studies, like the paper BK wrote about with plea deals and how many innocent people being convicted. Yet they say nothing about how this case was handled. Man,
this case was seriously mishandled. By the way, along with your slide you just showed about the paid, the funded tech companies. I got to tell you, I got into a fight with ChatGPT about Jack DeCour, and it was hilarious.
I think I was telling you, I crashed out about the new ChatGPTs lately. Like, just answer my damn question.
Right. Yeah. So documents have recently been released that show Jack DeCour as a suspect in this crime. And so I simply was asking, because by the way, and I'm going to tell you right now, it did not check out, but Jack DeCour and Coeur d'Alene have a similar name, Coeur, right? Coeur, which in French means heart. Did you know that Coeur d'Alene means basically stabbing the heart, or a sharp heart, or a knife in the heart? Coeur means heart. Coeur d'Alene means basically a stab in the heart or something to that effect. It had to do apparently with sharp-hearted traders back in the day when we were doing trades. They were known as hard-hearted people, and so Coeur d'Alene was basically a way of saying hard-hearted people, but it was the Delane part is an owl, a stabbing instrument, so it's pretty fucking interesting. But anyways,
that is intricate. And then you think about, although Mel Koberger said that she Mel Koberger said she drew that heart for Brian Koberger at his plea deal or sentencing. I'm like, oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, DeCour really means of. DeCour means of the heart. Coeur means heart. DeCour means of the heart. So that's where the name DeCour comes from. It's like Jack of the Heart kind of thing, I guess. But anyways, the point being is I told ChatGPT, now that we know Jack DeCour, based on recently released police reports, was listed as a suspect, can you tell me if there's any connection between the DeCour family and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? And it came back with, let me make one thing clear. Brian Koberger is the suspect in this case, not Jack DeCour. And so I got kind of irritated at its answer and said, do I need to show you the police documents that list Jack DeCour as a suspect? And then they came back with more attitude. I'm not going to argue with you, yes, Jack DeCour's name shows up as a suspect, but Brian Koberger is the only suspect in this case. And I'm like, isn't that the fucking bitch? Like, literally, it's arguing with me, telling me I have no right to question the suspect who literally is on the paperwork. And they're like, let me be clear. Brian Koberger is the suspect in this case, not Jack DeCour. Like, wow. Right, that's the way.
This is you. This is you. And damn Chat GPT.
It's exactly right. Give me the fucking answer, you bastard.
He's fucking listed as a suspect.
Do I have to prove it to you? Yeah, that's me. That's me. Nice speed on that one. That's awesome.
Oh, dude. I mean, yeah, it's getting worse. It really is. It's getting so bad. And Drew Bledsoe's in here now saying that Jack S guy is a smart and he's funny. Now I wonder if that profile has any relation to Dylan or the Showalter. Reality Check says, welcome to Animal Farm 1984. Facts. Absolutely. And Long Gone 4741 says, I'm still puzzled as to why BK asked, did anyone else get arrested when he was arrested in Pennsylvania? I saw and heard him ask. Well, logic would tell you because he's at least confused as to why he's getting arrested.
Right. Again, it's back to my theory. I think it's very possible Koberger was there at some point, but he wasn't the guy that did it. And he was thinking it's going to come out, right? It's got to come out. I'm not the one that went into the house. I didn't do it. At best, I really think at best he was given an address. Hey, can you come pick me up at this house? And he drove there to go pick somebody up. And then he left. And then he's like, well, shit, they're going to pin this murder on me. And maybe it's because I had a long form video about why there's an incentive to go after living suspects and not dead suspects. So any kind of scenario in which the actual person who committed the murders has died during the investigation, they would be financially incentivized to shift the investigation to a living suspect because it keeps the money flowing. There's no money to go after a dead suspect. There is money to get an arrest, to bring somebody to prosecution, and to try them and get a conviction, because all of that stuff leads to funding. And so, there's a possibility that the lead suspect died in this case, and then they shifted to a living suspect.
Oh, well, that would certainly be crazy. And Hive, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. If you guys could please, again, hit the like button, scan the QR code if you'd like to follow the Hive on any of our other socials. I got all of my links, too, in the description as well. And then, DA, I got a slide here for you quick. Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. So I've got a website, devilsadvocates.info, which I'm trying to make a landing page for a lot of my other stuff. But this is my YouTube page, Devil's Advocates 2024. So, check me out there if you haven't subscribed. I feel like I've got a lot of cool stuff, and I do cover other cases like Luigi Mangione. I cover the Delphi case, Richard Allen's appeal that's going on. I cover Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann's case. I cover... I feel like I'm covering more than that even as well. But I forgot all the cases I'm covering. But anyways, thanks. Yeah.
Well, and Drew Bledsoe gave you a super chat saying that's the smartest stuff you've ever said. So thank you to Drew for that. And then everything
so much
gifted people in the den, 20 memberships.
Dude, thank you so much. That is a great gift for people. I hope that people got to take advantage of that. Thank you so much for supporting the channel like that.
Well, DA, as always, it was fun, brother. I'm hoping that we can actually get to the point where we can start to dive into things that start to make more sense for a new story of this case, a new story that makes more sense than the narrative, but also people can follow given everything else that has been speculated on. Right? That's what I'm really hoping to see the tide change on is not just speculating at a bunch of random stuff, whether it's the frats, whether it's drugs, whether it's the cops, whether it's the university. If it's all of them, I just hope that something gets leaked or comes out that it's that missing piece that can somehow tie all of them together, or just a couple at least.
I know you're wrapping up, but I want to say one thing to give people hope. And that is, we have when tax dollars are involved, they have to document things because your tax dollars are paying for it. They can't just lie to the public all the time and steal your tax dollars and not show you where your money's going. their protection behind these kind of cases coming to light is when people don't ask the questions. They count on you not asking the questions. And I want to add one more thing. In that contractual agreement between Moscow Police Department and University of Idaho, it says both the university and Moscow Police Department have to keep confidential both of the information they share with each other, but they will not be held responsible for breaking that confidentiality if the information is obtained through public records information requests. So in other words, if the public pushes and asks for questions, they will be forced to cough up information, and they're not held accountable for breaking their agreement with each other to hide each other's secrets. But until you ask, they will hide each other's secrets. So ask. We got to start asking the questions.
Well said, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Hit that like button on the way out. I will see you all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you. Have a great night.
Later, yeah.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.